Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday, already August 1st, 2024. Born on this date in 1809, commander of the Alamo, William Travis. Now, he was born in South Carolina, but spent most of his youth in Conecuh County. Also on this date, in 2001, Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Roy Moore had a 10 Commandments monument installed in the Judiciary Building. A lawsuit was filed, and it was eventually removed. Today, we have reporter John Sharp on the show to talk about Amtrak's pending return to Mobile. First, though, we have an update in the original IVF court case that led to this past spring's Pier 6 brawl. That's a little Gordon Soley for you. Also, a county commission candidate accused of turning in fake absentee ballots and the big aluminum statues going up in the Shoals. My name's Ike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. Y'all may recall something about an in vitro fertilization court case that reached the Alabama Supreme Court earlier this year. Unless you spent February, March, and at least part of April living in the International Space Station without internet service, you know that the state's high court overruled a lower court's finding that couples couldn't sue over destroyed embryos because they weren't considered children. The Alabama Supreme Court reversal set off a panic, a debate, and even the closing of some IVF clinics over possible civil and criminal liability that facilities would face over their handling of human embryos. The Alabama legislature passed a law giving IVF clinics immunity in such situations. That led the 3 couples from the original lawsuit to request that a court find the new law unconstitutional. Which pretty much brings us up to date. And now, AL.com's Howard Koplowitz reports that 2 of those 3 couples have dropped the case against the clinic. Attorneys didn't give a reason for the dismissal with the filing, but the lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it can't be brought back by the former plaintiffs. That leaves 1 couple with a case still pending. The Alabama Attorney General's Special Prosecutions Division claims that a county commission candidate falsified applications for absentee ballots and then used the ballots to vote for himself in the March primary election, reports AL.com's Carol Robinson. Terry Andrew Heflin, a Democratic candidate for a commission seat in Clay County, is charged with 7 counts of unlawful use of absentee ballots. Each one of those counts can get you a year and a day, up to 10 years in prison. If you drive around the Shoals region in Alabama, you're going to notice a few very large, very aluminum musicians in some of the cities. Just imagine that the Tin Man has cousins in Alabama who can rock. Now, I don't have to tell you about the musical influence the region has had, from blues and country and R&B and rock and roll, Duane Allman, Leonard Skinner, Fame Studios, the Swampers, Aretha, the Rolling Stones, Percy Sledge recorded When a Man Loves a Woman right here in Alabama. Father of the blues, W.C. Handy, was born in Florence. Even the Tennessee River itself was called the Singing River by local Indians because of the sound the wind made as it blew across the water. AL.com's Kelly Kasich reports that the statues are a project called the Singing River Statues to pay homage to musical heritage with a nod to the area's history of aluminum production. So far, you can see a 20-foot electric bass guitarist in Muscle Shoals, an 18-foot 50s-era singer in Sheffield, and the latest, an 18-foot jazz trumpet player in Florence. Now, there was supposed to be a Native American musician playing traditional instruments in Tuscumbia, but after it was started, local officials and the artists seemed to have disconnected over a money issue, and so they've had to regroup and look for another artist. And the original plans included several more statues along the river. When and whether those might be commissioned is still up in the air. Hey, y'all stick around. We're going to talk Amtrak in coastal Alabama.
Isn't the point of traveling to get away from it all? To feel the best you've ever felt? Then maybe you should check out Aruba. You'll spend your time relaxing on cool, white, sandy beaches and floating in healing blue water. You'll meet locals brimming with gratitude for an island that redefines what a paradise can be. When your trip comes to an end, you won't need another vacation because you just had the vacation. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your trip at Aruba.com.
Hey, thanks for staying with us, everybody. Today on the show, we have reporter John Sharp. Now, he's been covering efforts to bring back Amtrak service to Mobile, and somebody's been trying to do that pretty much ever since Hurricane Katrina ended the run of the Sunset Limited beyond New Orleans way back in 2005. Welcome to the show, John.
Yeah, thanks, Ike. Good to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. Now, tell me, just how close are we to having Amtrak service back in Mobile?
Well, about as close as we've ever been. It's a significant milestone, is what we're looking at on Tuesday, when the Mobile City Council will be voting on 3 separate agreements. 2 of the 3 are fairly non-controversial. The third one, being a financial funding agreement, is more controversial. But at this point, we've got an indication that there is enough votes on the city council in order to pass that through. So once those agreements are in place for Amtrak, CSX, and other rail operators, it's all systems go as far as utilizing federal grant money to make capital improvements that are necessary for the train service to begin, which all indications at this point is that it will begin sometime in the spring of 2025. And that is the twice daily connection between Mobile and New Orleans with 4 stops in coastal Mississippi.
Yeah, you mentioned federal money. Is the state going to play a role in this?
At this point in time, the state has not dedicated, and this is where the controversy comes into play. The states of Mississippi and Louisiana are dedicating $3 million in operations over the course of 3 years. The state of Alabama has not made that dedication, nor were they particularly asked to make that dedication. The Southern Rail Commission and Amtrak have both approached the city of Mobile for support. You have to go back in time, not so long ago, in which the state of Alabama was pretty adamant in its opposition towards this route. Their concern is that the passenger trains would interfere with the Port Authority's activities here in Mobile. And there was a lot of opposition. It got a lot of national attention. But where we left off a couple of years ago is that Alabama simply did not support the project at this point in time. But we've got indications now from Governor Kay Ivey that, yes, they would be willing to provide a bit of support for Mobile, because at this point in time, Mobile, the city of Mobile, is the only government entity being asked in Alabama to provide this operation subsidy, whereas the states of Mississippi and Louisiana are providing the subsidy. This is coming out of the city's coffers, and that kind of rubs some council members the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah. And it also sounds like this train could be online before anything came from the state. You said the governor has been open to something, but they have to go back in session in the spring.
Well, that's correct. Yeah, it's all about timing at this point. And right now, the Port Authority is obligated $1 million to help offset the city's obligation. So you could drop that $3 million down to $2 million in essence. Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, paid out over 3 years. The smallest amount is owed in year number 1. So the dedication from the port really helps Mobile offset its what it owes right off the bat. But the state could come back then next spring and vote to help support, let's say, hypothetically another $1 million, and that would help drop the city's
Right.
obligation even further. So that's kind of the hope right now. Governor Ivey has indicated she supports that, but of course that has to go through the legislative process, and we may
Yeah.
not know the outcome of that until next April or May.
Yeah, they obviously can't count on it. Well, what about beyond that 3-year commitment period? How does this work with Amtrak? Is the city still going to be on the hook?
So that's the big question mark right now. Councilman Josh Woods, who is viewed as kind of the swing vote in all this,
Hmm.
he is satisfied with the way the Mayor Sandy Stimpson's administration wrote this agreement that basically, uh, in essence, says, "Hey, Amtrak, you can't come back to the city after 3 years. We're committed to this for 3 years. After that, you have to find another outlet for supporting this state supported route." And in theory, that would probably go back to the governor's office, to the state of Alabama. In 3 years, we don't know who the governor will be, though. So that's another interesting
Yeah.
political intrigue in
Yeah.
all this. But yeah, that Amtrak, the Southern Rail Commission, and all other passenger rail advocates have about 3 years to prove that this service is worth continuing, because
Hmm.
beyond 2027 is an unknown.
Yeah, I think people like regular people at home think of the value of passenger rail as, where do I get to go and am I interested in doing it? But local officials and business leaders are thinking of who's coming here. I take it that economic impact was a big driver locally in finally getting this passed.
Yeah, there's some viewpoints that this could bring in somewhere around close to $2 million in additional lodging tax revenues.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, that pays for almost all the $3 million over 3 years, and then there's additional money that will be made by hotel rooms, additional hotel rooms, and then restaurant revenues and stuff along those lines from the visitors that will come to Mobile. We just don't know what those numbers will be yet. I think there's some
Yeah.
skepticism, especially from local leaders, and some of them have gotten a little bit of criticism for kind of downplaying Mobile's attractiveness. I've heard that as well. That I've heard the comments, "Well, who from New Orleans is going to come to Mobile?" And when you talk to convention and visitor bureau types, they say, "Well, there's a certain international visitor that a lot of folks don't account for, and they will take the trains because they're used to taking trains." And they'll take a train from New Orleans to Mobile. So we don't know what that all looks like yet. Again, we got once this train gets started in 2025, there's going to be, I think the pressure is going to be on marketing this thing, as far
Hmm.
as trying
Yeah.
to get the public engaged and understanding when they can take the train, how they can take the train, what events they can take the train to. For instance, there's been some discussions even of the train having a stop off maybe in Ocean Springs for the Peter Anderson Art Festival, so that this train is coordinated specifically for events that occur along the Gulf Coast, not necessarily making a stop at, that would be just a one-time example, but making a stop in a community that doesn't have a train station per se.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see if I lived in New Orleans and had for years that during Mardi Gras, it gets so crazy. I might want to leave and go to the real Mardi Gras just to see what it's like. But
Well, there's been this funny jab between the two cities, and a lot of folks say, well, it's in jest, it's all in good fun. Who had the first Mardi Gras? But I mean, there was a billboard put up in New Orleans that says you're only 115 miles from the birthplace of Mardi Gras, outside of Interstate
I
10.
love it.
Yeah, I do too. But that could be viewed not necessarily as comical. It can be some
Right.
folks kind of take it the wrong way too. And there's a lot of social media back and forth. But what this train offers is a new addition to Mardi Gras. And there's been some thoughts of whether or not they should wrap the Mardi Gras name around this train. This could be a new experience of Mardi Gras that we haven't had before in Mobile or in New Orleans, where you can take the train from one Mardi Gras party to
Oh,
another city that's having Mardi Gras. And along coastal Mississippi, they have Mardi Gras celebrations as well. So this could be especially during those 2 weeks of Mardi Gras, it could be quite a party train.
Absolutely. I hadn't even thought about that. That's awesome. I could go for the Mardi Gras train. I say this without knowing much on the subject, obviously, but um, one would think Amtrak might also have its eyes on extending the Sunset Limited um, on to Jacksonville, like it did before, as it did before. Is there any you got any feelers on that?
No, at this point, there are none. There has been no momentum in that direction. You got to keep in mind this state supported route, these three states, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, to get this Mobile to New Orleans route going has taken well over 10 years. I mean, it's been a heavy
Yeah.
lift. Amtrak does have an aggressive expansion plan, but there's some difficulties in taking this route further east, especially with regards to maneuvering through the state ports
Mhm.
rail yard. And there's a lot of agreements that would and negotiations that would have to take place before those discussions can even begin. That is not part of the current discussions at all. The stopping point for this Amtrak route in Mobile will be right downtown Mobile at the foot of Government and Water Streets, right across the street, right across Water Street from the Explorium. So it's right in the heart of downtown, but it does not go further east. And that's even in the agreements that if this project goes beyond what it stated, is that Mobile could terminate the agreement with and that would end the route outright.
John, you've helped out on this a lot, and I guess Tuesday's the big day. It seems like they have the votes to get this done. Is anything glaring that we've missed that you need to point out?
No, gosh, there's so much history to it. But no,
Yeah.
we're the meat of it is Tuesday is a very significant meeting. Um, there is there's the votes to pass this through it, but before Josh Woods came out and said that he was supportive of the agreements, there was not that. And I got a story up online right now that illustrates why this whole project comes down to potentially down to one swing vote on a city council in Mobile, Alabama. Strange as that may
Hmm.
seem, this is a project that's been discussed by a lot of people from the highest levels of office all the way down, and here we are at the very end, and it boils down to a swing vote on the city council. So that seems a little strange, but that's the way the law and the process is played out. So
Yeah, yeah. Your vote matters. All these offices
yes,
matter.
yes.
All right. Well, thank you, John Sharp, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Come back sometime. Um,
Thank you. I
and thanks everybody for listening. We will be back here again tomorrow. Until then, y'all come by and see what we're doing on the internet at al.com.